as a contemporary composer and not working in a particular genre, I'm interested in how we can move away from our preconceived notions about what the voice should or shouldn't be, getting away from those ideas of like the shoulds, and moving more towards just like what do we want, and experiencing things a little bit more openly and with a little bit less judgment, cultivating our awareness around the sounds that we're making, and then being able to make training our bodies in such a way that we have the versatility to make choices as as we desire them and as they occur to us. So this is sound, and all sound has four components that they're like every single thing that makes sound will have these four components, and and they all in some way or another shape our qualitative experience of the sound. So every single sound starts with some sort of a power source that makes something vibrate, right? So like, as is pointed out to me from time to time, sound is just wiggling air, right? And we have this like amazing sense organ that is able to sort of like differentiate all these different sounds, even when there's tons of different kinds of wiggling air. Like if you're in a noisy room, you can hear all of those different sounds and kind of like parse them out. Just because of this like super tiny membrane in our ear. It's like insane. But anyway, so everything has got a power source that makes something vibrate. And then that initial vibration is wiggling the air in such a way within some sort of a resonator, right? And that, so for instance, okay, so like with a guitar, the power source would be my arm, right? Or my finger would make the string vibrate. And then the body of the guitar is the resonating cavity that is shaping the way that the sound wiggles. Is essentially like it filters for certain frequencies. And then the fourth part is the articulator. So the articulator determines how the sound begins and ends. And the shape of the sound, like so how it is in the beginning and at the ending, informs how we experience the sound just as much as the sound in the middle, like the sustained sound. So if I go like ah, then like what you're hearing is the sustained ah. But if I like whatever my lips and tongue and teeth are doing to shape the beginning of and end of that sound, or like even the way that the vocal folds come together, all inform you experiencing that as like a human vocal sound, as well as like the shape and gooiness of like the inside of my mouth and things like that. So for the voice, the power source is the lungs, it's air. So the ribs, the diaphragm, the abdominal muscles work together to push air out of the lungs, and then it makes the vocal folds vibrate. And people call these chords or other things, and they're really it's really like two flabs of meat, right? It is the first sphincter of the body. So there's 5 sphincters of the body, and there's one at the top and bottom of the stomach, and one at the top and bottom of the rectum, and then there's a 5th one that's right here, and it functions exactly the same way. The primary function of the vocal fold is actually to keep us from choking, right? It's to make, like, to separate air, like the air passageway and the food passageway and things like that. So if you, we can all kind of experience this. If you go and then you kind of stop your sound, and you can feel that sort of like lifting pressure, like that, like I'm trying to lift something up, and your vocal folds actually come together to create like subglottal pressure, and we use that to help us exert ourselves, to help us like lift heavy things. So they're going to go in through the nose, and then taking they numb people first, but they go in through the nose and take a picture of the vocal folds. That's the Adam's apple, the larynx. the vocal folds, what they do is they stretch out, and as they stretch out, they tilt a little bit on their sides, and that thinness is like what we use for like higher singing. And then they can also constrict where they tilt a little lower and they become thicker. And we use that for like lower, deeper singing. And it's actually one of the only places in the body where this sort of muscular antagonism occurs simultaneously. So like, for instance, with my arm, right, like certain muscles, like my tricep, are used to extend, and then the bicep is used to flex, right? And it's two different muscle groups that do this, but and it's like they're kind of separate. But the vocal folds, I mean, they still have two different muscles, but they are pushing and pulling on the vocal fold membranes at the same time. And there's actually like 30, I don't remember the number, there's 30 something muscles that we use for singing. And of course, one of the big frustrations is that we can neither see nor touch any part of the mechanism, right? I mean, could you imagine like being able to feel your body vibrating like 600 times a second? It would just sort of drive you nuts. So this whole thing of like the pushing and pulling, a lot of the exercises that we do and a lot of the training for the voice is about being able to control that muscular antagonism so that it's not all one way or all the other, right? So like, for instance, like a yodel is if I go from using the muscle, like the stretching and thinning muscle, using like a lighter thin sound, that idea of like a break is a rapid flip between those two sets of muscles, right? So the thinning muscle and then suddenly constricting to what a lot of people refer to as head voice and chest voice, because of where they feel it resonating in their body. That's sort of a qualitative like definition of the sound. There's no like those muscles can work like this in any gradation of like pushing and pulling at the same time. And so there's not like a particular line that occurs where we say, oh, now we're in the head voice, now we're in the chest voice. It's all about a matter of adjusting the mechanism to get the maximum amount of acoustic boost. So that's the vocal folds. Here in this picture, you can see like there's an open space in the mouth, right? And it starts where the vocal folds are, and then there's and it changes, like there's all these different pockets of air, unlike a guitar, right, which has that sort of figure eight shape, like a kind of fat figure eight shape. It can't change. It's like it's a static body of resonance. The voice, depending on the position of our tongue and teeth and lips and all these things, create all these different pockets of air that can change. We can also change the density to some degree of like the inside of our mouth, creating like more squishy parts or more like firm surfaces to get different kinds of resonance. And the prominent, like the most dominant way that we control these pockets of air is what we refer to as vowels. And what they do is just like a bottle. Yeah, so I'll leave this up. Just like a bottle that has water in it, and if you blow over the top of it, right? Like if I take some of that water out, then and I blow over it, does the note go up or down? Use your hand so I can see. It goes down because there's more air, right? So the more air there is in the bottle, the lower the note that resonates inside it will be. And similarly, if I put water in it, then the note raises. And so like, just like with this chart, you can see on when like if we sing the word heed, if we use that vowel E, and go ahead and everyone just give me like a nice E sound. Not that I can hear you, but kind of say E. Good. Now say ah. And now say ah, E, and slide them together. So ah would be the face in the bottom left corner. Mm-hmm. And you see how low the hump of the tongue is? And then, but it's creating a small space in the back. The tongue root is going backwards. And then E, the tongue humps up and creates a narrow space at the top of the mouth, at the top of the vocal tract, and creates open space in the back part of the vocal tract. Just with the tongue, it doesn't necessarily have to be with the lips. The lips can exaggerate it, ah ee or ah ee, and they have sort of different acoustic properties. I'll be able to show you this. This will make a lot more sense in a second. There are two main pockets of air between the back of the tongue and the vocal folds. That's and then between the tongue, the back of the tongue and the teeth. And those two pockets of air are our primary filters for sound and emphasize different parts of our sound. And when those like acoustic boosts happen in our sound, they're referred to as formants. And so this is this pocket of air here emphasizes, like creates like the first primary boost in different parts of sound, and this one makes the second boost. And both of them are primarily controlled by the vowel that we use. So you know what, like this is, let me take this out of theory and make this, I put this into something that's a little bit more that you can visualize. Okay. So, so this is a spectrograph. It is a way of visualizing sound, right? So within our sound, whenever anything vibrates, not just the voice, but like literally anything, there are always sub vibrations that occur that are referred to as harmonics. And I'll just show you. So if I go like, oh, cool. So this down here is the note that I'm singing. And here are other sounds that are being boosted. And these are referred to as the harmonics. And what I love about this particular piece of software, which is called Voce Vista, is it allows you to filter the harmonics so that you can hear them one at a time. So that's the fundamental pitch that I'm singing. That is the pitch that my vocal folds are vibrating at. Okay, but above it are all these other sounds. Yeah, so that's like our sound, right? Those within our within everything that vibrates, there are all of these sub vibrations. And if you look over on the right side here, this shows like the relative strength of those different harmonics. And this is referred to as the spectral envelope of the sound. It's sort of like a snapshot of that sustained like waveform. The balance of these different harmonics are controlled by the resonators in my voice. And this is the reason that a flute does not sound like a clarinet. It's the reason that that I don't sound like Aaron or Julie when I'm singing or speaking, right? It's because like how we hear the quality of sound has to do with how those different harmonics in our voices balance. Now what's crazy is if you are into music at all, this will make more sense, but the pattern of those overtones are always the same. So whatever note I'm singing, the first one is always an octave. The first harmonic, or like I guess the first harmonic is the note I'm singing. The second harmonic is always an octave higher. The third harmonic is always a fifth above that. The next one is always a fourth above that, and then a major third, and then a minor third, and so on forever. It's always the same, like within every sound that vibrates, the same chord is being heard. But we hear that as just one fundamental pitch with a certain color and a certain quality. Okay, and so to show you what I was talking about in terms of vowel, you'll be able to see here, okay, every vowel has its own spectral envelope, right? So So technically it's its own timbre, it's its own like quality. So if I go like or if I go, oh, this is a good one. If I emphasize the vowel starting from the ones that emphasize the lowest harmonics to the highest ones, it'll go like this. Okay, so again, if I let's see if I can. Okay, cool. So you can hear my voice going from like ooh to e, ooh, I, kind of ish. Okay, cool. So if I filter just the lowest harmonic, tell me what vowel you hear. And while you're listening to it, go ahead and try to like hear it and imitate it, like make the shape of it with your mouth. So I'm seeing lots of round puckered lips. So I'm getting like a general like ooh sense. Okay. So as I add the upper harmonics, you can start to hear hearing it change from oo to o. Okay, now this is a really interesting thing that's happening. So this is like the part where it's, my mind starts to like, we only like, how do I say this? Vowel is pitch. Pitch is vowel, right? So when I kept this low pitch, even though I was saying different vowels, y, right? When I filtered only the low frequencies, you didn't hear the vowel change because the oo vowel is around that frequency range, always. Anytime we hear that frequency range, it sounds like an oo. Anytime that we hear these upper frequency ranges, our brains have like, we categorize that frequency range as a vowel and we call it E. But vowel is pitch. So when we are creating vowels, all we are doing is changing the shape of the vocal tract to boost certain frequencies and dampen other frequencies. And that's kind of the core of what vowels are, right? That's what communication is. So in a way, we all have the ability, like what a lot of people call perfect pitch, right? We are all born with the ability to hear a certain frequency and then identify it. I mean, within like a certain color, right? We just hear it as certain vowels. But we, like, because of how language works, our brains actually unlearn. Like, we're all born with the ability for me to be able to play a C on the piano and for you to learn what a C is so that you can just always be like, oh yeah, this is a C. It goes like this, da, da, and you just know it all the time. But we unlearn that so that we have an easier time understanding people speaking in language at different pitches. So we're not just only associating pitch and vowel. Okay, so even within this, I don't know if you can hear it, but can you hear that, like, I'm modifying my vowel? So it's not a true oo, but I'm kind of going ooh, ooh, like ooh, kind of putting a little on it. I'll give you a true ooh so you can see what happens. It's very counterintuitive because as singers, and we are used to modifying our vowels to to create a big acoustic boost. But if I don't do that, if I give you a true ooh, you see how weak the sound is and kind of buzzy. What happens is that like my resonator is not low enough to give the sound a good boost. And so what happens is the sound becomes like the vocal folds are still vibrating at that frequency, right? They're just not getting boosted. So the difference between you can see like how much richer the sound is as soon as I'm willing to open up the vowel. And so this is like why when sopranos sing really high, we just kind of like say, no one's going to understand your words. We know that it's just like forever, right? Because they need to create a mouth shape that emphasizes those higher harmonics, so they can get the sort of acoustic boost and like that they want to be heard in like a full and resonant way. If you haven't heard shape note singing, this sort of like Appalachian hymn tunes, Sacred Harp kind of stuff. And what you're going to see is when people sing it, they tend to have a really wide, almost smiley kind of right? So if you make that ooh sound with your lips, go ahead and everyone go ooh. Is that lengthening or shortening your vocal tract? Ooh. Ooh, yeah. So that is, it's lengthening your tract. The lips are coming out, ooh, and making a little bit longer of a space. And also, like for me, if I want to make a really hollow sound, I can feel my laryngeal position lowering. It feels like there's like a sense of hollowness in my throat. Try that again. Ooh, right? Whereas if I go, and I make like a really Donald Ducky, like quack, quack, quack. Ooh, quack, actually quack for me. Go ahead. Quack, quack, quack. So you can see like my mouth is, the lips are curling back and pulling back to shorten my vocal tract. Ooh, And then also like I feel a sort of a sense of tightness in my throat, which is the laryngeal position rising and creating less space in that first formant. So essentially what that's doing is it's boosting a lot of those upper harmonics, right? Again, I'm creating less air by shortening my vocal tract and by raising my larynx and pulling my lips back. I'm creating a shorter vocal tract which has less air, which means it's going to resonate higher. So it's going to emphasize a lot of those upper harmonics, which will feel kind of shouty, or like people going like, hey, hey, that kind of thing. You'll see. This is kind of how they sing a shape notes. It's awesome.
Maybe.
In shape note singing, they always sing through a hymn first on solfege, and it's this weird kind of very specific solfege to Sacred Harp that has to do with like the shape of the note heads and things like that, and then they go through it again and they sing it on the word. Farewell, hey world, I'm going home. My Savior smiles and bids me come, and I don't dare to stay here long. But you can see like a lot of the mouth shapes are very like smiley. I mean, they're also just like having a grand old time, but it has that sort of musical theater-y sound. You see all of this upper information that's being shown. And if I filter for it, this is actually, there's an official term for this area of the voice. It's called the twang region. Now notice those blank spots. That was when I was doing the ooh vowel, right? So you couldn't hear the ooh vowel. Like the ooh vowel didn't come up as much in the twang region, but that really rings around 3,000 hertz, which means that our ear is getting excited at 3,000 hertz. which can be very tiring for the ear, but also very exciting, right? So there's like there's like a balance of trying to excite the ear, but also not fatigue it. But this is like what musical theater goes for. And also, by the way, that the tighter, like the more that the vocal folds constrict and the more meat that is touching when it's vibrating will help excite higher harmonics more also, which is kind of what belting traditionally is in the musical theater world. It's when we say bringing the, like people will describe it as bringing the chest voice up to the head voice register, or like it's kind of like driving a car at 50 miles an hour in second gear, kind of. It is singing high and keeping the vocal folds thick and with a great deal of adduction, with them touching a lot. As opposed to allowing them to tilt. So if I go like, you know, that more classical sound is the vocal folds coming up on their edges and thinning out, so that there's like less of that stuff touching. When like men do it all the way to the extreme, people often refer to it as falsetto. And then I can slowly, it will sound louder when I do it because more harmonic excitement means louder. But if I go like, right, then like like that shouty level at the end is my vocal folds coming together, and really has that like strident, really belty sound to it. So the vocal folds, like, or the vocal folds, how they are stretching and doing this kind of stuff is one really important aspect to the quality of the sound. And then how my resonators are shaping that sound fill in the rest of it. But I can kind of cheat, right? Like I can create that similar bright strident sound by changing my vowel. Like instead of I can get that like really pingy twang. It will show you because it's fun to see. As opposed to, right? And do you see this stuff that showed up here? This stuff like around 10,000 hertz or something like that? This is extremely musical theatery. The musical theater singers tend to emphasize this stuff that's 10,000 to even 15,000 hertz, whereas classical singers, we like this is referred to as the singer's formant, or the twang region. This stuff around 3,000 hertz we tend to emphasize the most. So you can see, even though my fundamental pitch is changing, this stuff in the 3,000 hertz range is always there. So that's like my classical training has kind of trained that frequency range to be popping no matter what I'm singing. But then again, for musical theater singers, they tend to go even higher into like the 10,000 hertz and stuff like that. By putting that energy into that frequency band around 3,000 hertz, it gives excitement and carrying power. It kind of helps cut through, you know, a 70-person orchestra. You can still hear Renee Fleming because she's just got like twang for days. So it's kind of one of those like smarter, not harder moments, right? Where by training the voice to have like a strong energy boost in the singer's formant gives us that like volume without necessarily a great deal of effort. Yeah, and actually that I will say that the twang region does not come from either the first or second formant. It actually comes from a different formant called the epilarynx, and it's this little tube that narrows, and it emphasizes the sound at 3,000. Again, it's one of the many pockets of air, but it emphasizes the sound at around 3,000 hertz, and it also happens to match the shape of a space in the ear that resonates around that frequency. So there, like it will naturally be louder to us anyway. So it doesn't just help us carry over an orchestra in like an abstract way. It specifically helps us carry over an orchestra to other human beings, right? Like it's a very, like the singer's formant is very much a very human phenomenon from the human voice that's intended for the human ear. Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. Yeah, so babies and also women screaming is around that frequency range. You can actually even suppress the fundamental pitch so that all you hear are the individual harmonics. And by narrowing the space of the vocal tract to like a very small space, you can pop just one harmonic at a time. So it goes like this. So on, right? So you can kind of see these, like this is staying the same, but like basically changing the vowel with like a very extreme narrow and forward sound, like using an R shape because the R humps up the tongue to narrow the vocal tract. You can see just like the individual harmonics moving. So this is like a really extreme form of changing the timbre of the voice. And so on. Most of the exercises that I do for this are really simple, like 5-note patterns, right? And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna use 3 different vowels to emphasize the different like harmonic areas of the voice, right? So like either the low, the high, or sort of like a mix. Okay, but let's imagine our birds. Let's be birds for a second. And if it helps for you to stand here, if you need some room, I find it helpful to include some arm gestures with this. So I'm going to hold a little dove. Okay, and you're going to gently, but so it doesn't firmly enough that it doesn't fly away, and you're going to pet your dove. Okay, and we're going to make a little dove sound. So we're going to go coo, 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 coo. And then I'll do it once and you repeat it after me. 2, 3, and coo, 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 coo. Great. And as we're doing this, think about kind of creating that sense of length and hollowness in the throat. So length of the lips, ooh, and hollowness. And this is going to emphasize those lower harmonics. Ooh, coo, 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 coo. Okay, try that again. Ready, and coo, 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 coo. And try it up here. Coo, 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 coo. One more. Coo, 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 coo. Coo, 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 coo. So here you can see we're emphasizing a lot of the fundamental sound, right? The undervowel, the ooh, is like the sort of the vowel that's undergirding our sound, is emphasizing the lowest harmonics that are present in the sound, and it is attenuating or dampening the higher harmonics. Okay, so if in one way you could think of this as one overarching timbre, right? One overarching style of singing that is like a sort of darker, hollower sound. When you're first warming up your voice, straws are just like the single most research tool in voice science for voice habilitation. Because what they do is they narrow the vocal tract by creating a very small aperture, and they also lengthen it. And what this does is it helps ease the vibration of the vocal folds. So what happens is, right, the air is coming up through the lungs and making the folds vibrate. But because the aperture is small and because it's long, only some of the air is escaping through it, and a lot of it's getting bounced back. And it's helping the vocal folds vibrate from both sides at the same time. This is referred to as a semi-occluded vocal tract exercise, which means partially closed, right? So by using the straw and singing all the way through it on like a boo or a coo, this is a really great way to like just get the voice warm in a really gentle way and to help align the mechanism. So if I was going to do it through the straw, I'd be like, and what I often do is I put my hand at the bottom of the straw to make sure that air is flowing all the way through it, because if it's not, I might be humming around the straw, which is not getting the air through it. So I go like, I'm not feeling a lot of air rushing through. So see if you can find that like singing boo or coo through it and make sure that air is really coming through the straw. Okay, so because I'm running short on time, that's all I'm going to say about the straw. But this is like, I keep one of these in my dish drainer. So like when I'm doing dishes in the morning, I pull out the straw and I try to do this for like 5 or 10 minutes. And it's just a really great way to warm up. Renee Fleming, the world's greatest opera soprano right now, says that her entire singing life was changed because of straw phonation. So if it's good enough for Renee Fleming, it's good enough for us. Okay, great. So there's the coo, 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 coo. Okay, and now let's try the opposite of that. And if you're standing or if you got room for your wings, let's give me some like duck wings. And just as I was saying, that ooh sound lengthens the vocal tract, lowers the laryngeal position, gives us a sense of hollowness. Qua will help shorten the vocal tract by pulling the lips back, and will also raise the larynx, shortening the vocal tract in that direction. So let's go quack, 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 and go quack, 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 and here, sorry again, quack, 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 and again, quack, 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 and here, quack, 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 and here, quack, 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 quack. Good. Now, if you're like me, this starts to get rather tiring, right? And that's because the A vowel, okay, is emphasizing those upper harmonics. Let me record it for you. Quack, 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 quack. Right? So you get all this information up here, just like tons of it, as opposed, like in contrast to, I'm going to see if I can you make it so I can see both. No? Okay, cool. That's great. I love this program. So you see right here, there's very little of that like really twangy stuff. But here, there's just like tons and tons and tons of it, right? And so what's happening is that like there's all of these things that we do subconsciously without realizing it. But when we make that A vowel, the vocal folds are also trying to create strong harmonics that will be boosted by what happens in that frequency range that's being emphasized by our vowel, and vice versa, right? So in this case, that A vowel encourages strong adduction of the vocal folds, that shortening to create those higher harmonics that this vowel is wanting to boost. It's kind of hard to trick our minds into like creating the falsetto sound on an A vowel. It's possible, but it seems counterintuitive. Whereas sounds awesome and like very 80s hair metal. So that's how you get the 80s hair metal sound. Okay, so there's ooh, there's ah, and then let's find a middle ground of qua. So in this case, we're gonna be like geese, big geese wings. Just move a ton. If you've got the space, just like move a ton of air. Use your shoulders, like flap your wings in big ways. And we're gonna go qua 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 qua, and go. Qua, 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 and here, qua, 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 and again,
Qua, 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 qua. One more. Qua, 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 qua.
Cool. So, and here you can see this middle stuff. I'm still singing the same pitches as I was earlier. Can I make this any smaller now? The pitch, the lower pitch material is still the same. My fundamental pitch, the note that you're hearing is the note that I'm singing, and the frequency that my chords or the folds are vibrating at is unchanged. But here we're just, oops, I can't remember where did we go? Oh, so far. Okay, so here we were doing the ooh and emphasizing the fundamental. Here we were the ah, and we were emphasizing this stuff. You can see on the right side of the screen how strong that is. And then here we're in the middle, and you can see a lot of this middle information, right? So if I was going to think of it as like three overarching timbres for the voice, right? One would be emphasizing the low, one would be emphasizing the middle, and one would be emphasizing the top. And again, the twang region, you can kind of have in all of that because it's controlled by that different tube. Like if I go like, excuse me, you can see it kind of throughout, but that's just like what classical, this is what classical training is. It's to create, they call it chiaro scuro, dark and light, where they want twang and they want lots of the fundamental at the same time. But you can still have these three general ideas of like, another way of thinking of them would be gradations of dark to light, right? So like a dark tone, a really bright tone, and maybe like a mixed tone. That's kind of a lot of times what people think about in terms of, I don't even want to use the term head voice and chest voice, but just to think about that. And those, and so in terms of like exercises, what I often try to practice is these three different resonance strategies, right? For like how we are resonating the different parts of the voice in different parts of my range and even on different vowels. So for instance, like, let's try this. Let's go, and then thinking ooh, but singing ah. Or ki 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 ki. So let's try that. We're gonna go ooh ah ee, but we're gonna try to feel ooh with all of that, and singing ooh as the undervowel. Okay, 2, ready, and coo 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 coo. Ka 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 ka. Ki 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 ki. Now, in that E vowel, I can see in a lot of your mouths that you are not making that like bright E space with your lips, right? We're keeping it really narrow and tall. Ki 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 ki, and a sense of hollowness in the throat. Same with that ah. This is very much like the English choir voice sound, right? So like if we're singing, if ye love me, keep my commandments. It's all emphasizing this fundamental frequency the whole time, even though my vowel is changing to say the different words, right? I mean, even within that, there's gradations, right? So I'm changing the vowel. Those frequency ranges are still getting excited, but my overarching undervowel, I'm putting a sense of ooh-ness throughout it. Whereas, like, if I sang this like Idina Menzel, if ye love me, keep my commandments, and then we get like a totally different sort of harmonic information because I'm putting ah into every aspect, every one of those vowels. So I no longer said if, I said if, and I didn't say love, I said la, ah, right? So all of that was informed by the sort of yeah sound. And that's what I mean by vowel modification. So even if like we're singing a high note on an ooh vowel, we're actually modifying the vowel to get acoustic boost. In the context of the word and all those other things, like lets us still hear ooh nicely. Yeah. So anyway, so if you were going to take some of these exercises home, what I would suggest is focusing on those 3 different resonance strategies, like an ooh, ah, and ah, and trying it out in different parts of your range really gently through just 5-note patterns, da 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 da. And I like to use slides as ways of moving that resonance strategy into parts of like ranges of my voice that I might not normally be comfortable or might not be as familiar with, right? But if I go like, you know, sometimes I'll do fifths in the octave, so I'll go like coo, 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 coo. And I'll practice, for instance, on the oo vowel, keeping it a true oo and modifying it. As opposed to where I'm opening it up into that oh, ah range so that we get more of that boost. Do you hear the difference? I'm sort of modifying my ooh so that I can still get like acoustic power. So, because this is all just a muscle, it's just like weightlifting and training your muscle coordination. So doing these sorts of exercises with different resonance strategies and in different parts of your range will help kind of like create the sort of timbral flexibility that we might want in different kinds of music.